Do you ever wonder why some clothing brands have cult-like communities while yours struggles to build any hype at all? And even though it feels like you're replicating what they're doing, today I'm going to show you the community building mistakes that you're probably making, why brands like Cortez feel like a cult, and the 4-step process to copying their strategy for your own brand. But to start, I need to show you the mistake you're probably making that'll never enable you to build a cult-like community. Because your Instagram page probably looks something like this. Yeah, it could be a little cleaner, but for the most part, it looks okay. There are some high quality product images, and these flat lays pass for a startup clothing brand. So then why don't you come across in the same way as a brand like Cortez does that sells out in minutes? Well, when I see a page like this, I notice 3 fatal mistakes that you're probably making too. And the first of 3 is that there are more products than people. I'm going to say something wildly obvious that for some reason, not enough clothing brands understand. Communities are made up of people, not products. Crazy, right? Not that profound. But why then are there so many moments where I can literally see only product images? This is not a community. This is a problem. And it shows me that you treat your Instagram more like a store page. And the worst part is that the engagement shows for it. Secondly, for the few times this brand does show people, most of them are the brand owner. It's a personal brand. And if your business's Instagram page is just an extension of your personal brand, this is also not a community. Well, this is a personal brand. And if we take a look at a clothing brand like Cortez, they've built an incredible cult community, and yet they barely even show the founder's face. And with a large personal brand, he has more reason to show his face than most. So how much less should we? The next mistake, and most fatal of all in my opinion, are the photos with a single subject. What do I mean by this? I mean, there's only one person in the image and they're isolated. And you're probably like, well, what's the problem with that? Well, nothing, except that these images don't exactly scream community. And when everything you post influences how customers see your brand, images like this will damage your cult community image. So now you know what it's like to kill your community. What should you do instead? Well, as you've already seen, Cortez has arguably one of the most loyal communities in the fashion space right now. And immediately their page looks and feels differently. I mean, take a look at this post. There is not 1, not 2, but 4 models in the image. In fact, their brand page is littered with group photos that physically show the community you become a part of when you wear the Cortez clothing. And that's what separates their cult-like community from your brand, at least at the moment. And if we look at them side by side, I know which one I'm going to be buying from. But why do some silly group photos matter so much? Well, let me explain it like this. You don't have a brick and mortar store. You can't shake your customers' hands, so their impression of your business is based purely upon what you post to social media. So if what you post changes how a customer sees you and consequently whether they buy from you, suddenly these group photos start to matter. It's your entire brand image. And if their impression of you affects whether they buy or not, what you post really starts to matter, especially if you want your impression to be buy this and join the community. So you need to start shooting photos as a community with the community. But how do you do that? Let me show you, because despite what you may think, you don't need expensive models or even lots of followers. In fact, when the founder of Cortez started out, he would simply shoot with his friends, and you don't need any followers for that. It's all about writing a good message to send out and reach out to the right people. But what should you say? Well, I'd start by making reference to something specific going on in their life right now, just to start the conversation. That's the best thing you can do. How was your trip? Did you have a good time? How's the new baby? Then you move into the ask, your request. By the way, I've recently started a clothing brand and was looking for some help. Having known you, I think your life and personality really embodies the brand that I'm building. You'd be perfect. Quick question, would you be open to helping me with a shoot? I'd love to gift you with some free stuff as a thank you. And don't just reach out to one person and expect to get a reply. If you want 5 models, reach out to 20 friends. It's much easier to have too many people willing than too too few. But here's the thing, many brands fail here because they either don't think about their shooting location or default to a white background studio, even as we've seen with the brand from before. But if we have a look at Cortez, their posts are always in locations that fit the brand identity. Check this one out, for example. The background is grungy and tough. It looks dangerous, much like Cortez customers and their personalities. So the context around the photo tells us what kind of community this is. My point here is that every shooting location is perfectly tailored to their target customer. And the effect is that if the right person sees this, they'll resonate with the models and the scene and know that this community was made for them. But you aren't necessarily going to shoot in a location like this because your brand identity and community is different from that of Cortez. So how do you find your own locations that match the community that you're building? Well, we have to find a clubhouse. And that's just a fancy word for where your community might go to hang out. And this will be the context for all the images that you shoot going forward. In other words, what people see in the background of all your product shoots. And a lot of brands get stuck here. So here are two very simple questions to help you figure out what your brand's clubhouse is. First, ask, if my customers were to meet up, where would they go and what would they do there? This question is especially helpful for obvious activity or lifestyle focused brands. For a skate brand, it'll be skating at a skate park or some other urban location. And for a football brand, well, you get it. You get the idea. But what if, like Cortez, you don't have a super obvious lifestyle to your brand? Well, you ask this question instead. If my target customer were a location on the map, where would it be and why? I mean, if their essence were a literal place instead of a person, that's the kind of mindset that we're thinking in. And I know it's weird, but this question gets you thinking about, and I hate that I'm about to use this word, about their vibe. Okay, I did it. For example, a mental health brand might choose somewhere like the beach because their customers are relaxed and stress-free. And you could prompt any of these questions to ChatGPT as well. Just share a little bit about your identity and the type of people you picked to be in your photos from before and you're set. So great. You've got your models and the location, but what are you actually going to shoot? Because for Cortez, they aren't just product photos. There are hidden stories within every carousel. Just let me show you. If we slide through this carousel, we get a picture into the lives of these characters. The images connect together to show them standing by the wall, then they climb on top of it, and that's where we see them in their hangout spot or their clubhouse. And you might think that we're overanalyzing at this point, but the most loyal customers that make up Cortez's cult community will intuitively resonate with these images and stories because of this level of care and without even knowing it. But how do you do that? Well, you have to be imaginative in 3 different ways. To start, let's consider the people or characters. Characters in a story are like pieces on a chessboard. The moves they make are what drives the plot forward. And so that's to say that they're pretty important. I recommend playing on stereotypes within your target community as you need to communicate a story without words in little time. And so making connections to familiar ideas will help the storytelling process. For example, Cortez's characters play on London gang stereotypes. Or for a football brand, let's say, you might have a stereotypical goalkeeper personality, or that one fast kid. Secondly, you need to be imaginative in their relation to each other. Are they friends, family, romantic partners? And finally, what are they doing there? The activity is super location dependent, but lays the groundwork for your entire story. And it could be as simple as chatting, but it's better to think outside the box. Find something that's really niche or nuanced that only your community will understand, because that's like rocket fuel to your cult following. Then you want to piece together a number of different shots in a way that tells the story. Use both close-ups and wide shots. And think of it almost like a storyboard. As I flick through your carousel, I should see key moments and be able to understand what's going on. And if you do this for every single shoot at each location, you'll start getting comments like this. But if that's not enough and you want even more brand reach and greater community impact, we can take this a whole step further, and here's how. You basically just make your photo shoot into a video, which will always get more reach among cold audiences. Let me show you one of my favorite examples from Cortez. This is a cool image, right? It encapsulates everything you need for a cult-like community with 2 subjects. They're hanging out in the subway, which is an activity that resonates pretty clearly with the Cortez customers. But now with the same jacket, watch this next video. They've essentially turned their subway photo shoot into a video that's gotten 400,000 views, and not paying for your train ticket beautifully relates to their brand identity. So here's why it works. There's so much AI, fake mock-ups, and dropshipping scams now that you need to convince the internet that you're not that. You can fake photos, but it's a hell of a lot harder to fake this. But how do you turn your photo shoot into a video? Well, you could keep it simple and make a video out of the mini scene you're capturing with a photo. There's nothing more to it really. Film them doing the activity with their friends. But if you want to take this a step further, find some way to make it shocking or not what we expect, because this becomes a fantastic visual hook. For Cortez, this was evading a ticket in the London Underground. For a football brand, it might be kicking an insane trick shot. Or maybe you're a sustainability brand and you do a skit where they vandalize cars that litter. Definitely don't do that. But think about something that your customers might do and take it to a very far extreme. That is essentially what a shocking visual hook is. But the thing is, showing the community in your product photos by itself isn't going to build your brand into an entire business. In fact, the brand represent used a number of marketing strategies to make $107 million in revenue. And their strategy is so incredible that I made an entire deep dive video to show you how to do it yourself. So watch this video next to learn how the Represent marketing strategy broke the internet.